Hey everybody, welcome to Beaming Notes, and today we're going to look at the critical analysis of the poem A Thing of Beauty, a poem by John Keats. Critical analysis. The poem A Thing of Beauty received contemptuous criticism after its release, and Keats himself noted its rambling and unpleasant style. On the other hand, he did not regret writing it, as he equated the process to diving into ocean to become more accustomed with his surroundings. Keats was never afraid to fail, for he believed that he would sooner fail than not be amongst the greatest. Not all critics detested the work. Some of the poets said that the song of the Endymion beats throughout with the noble poet's sense of all that his art means for him. What automated defects there are in it may even serve to accelerate our sense of youth and brightness of this voice of aspiration. Poetic devices. There are various poetic devices used in this poem: metaphor, alliteration, imagery. There are 3 pairs of alliteration: noble and natures bring the rich sounding ends in line 1. The C sounds of cooling and covert pop out in the next stanza. Again, we can notice the use of alliteration with B in the words band and bind. Metaphor is evidently used in bower quiet, sweet dreams, and wreathing a flowery band. In the next few lines, Keats gave us another use of metaphor by mentioning Paul, an endless fountain of immoral drink. The immense use of imagery can be found in the clause flowery bands, which visualizes a bunch of flowers like a band. The use of the clause shady boon also pictures a blessing to be shady. The words daffodils in the green world, clear rills, grandeur of dooms, etc. are instances of use of imagery. Cooling covert and endless fountain of eternal drink are one of the notable examples of imagery used in this poem. Theme. This poem in many ways signifies a romantic finale of Keats' firm belief in the non-destruction of beauty and of its claim to legitimacy with reference to its permanence and its ability to call up or contextualize the truth. This forms the main theme of the poem. The poet's artistic view of beauty as an obstinate source of pleasure and joy comes in the face of a knowledge of the sharp problems of life, to which the essential thing of beauty offer their own mode of struggle. Unlike the commonplace objects of everyday certainty, the objects of beauty are resistant to the perishability of time, and indeed of mortality. This interlaces a melancholic note characteristic to many of the poet's odes with a classical fleeting form of beauty. Their power rises with time. They are the signifiers of a continuity that is reflected as a historical truth of a story that exceeds the limitation of specific insight, but includes and decides the collective flow. The sun, the moon, the flora, and the fauna in nature are protectors of an infinity that can never be equated with the temporariness and incontinency of human schemes. Tone. In this poem, Endymion, the mythical character, has a tone of a desire for a romantic self-transcendence that aims at fusing his own self with the embarrassment of cosmic creations. It is the perception of the viewing subject of the critical mind which is responsible for his own well-being and which should ideally aim at balanced synthesis of his own egoistic feelings with the donated borrowings and emotional provisions of beauty. This is a personal unity which is more complicated than the Wordsworthian notion of pantheism. The stimulated state of mind that turns its own prejudice onto the gaze of nature demonstrates the idea of negative capability as proposed by the scholar poet. Solved questions. How is a thing of beauty a joy forever? A thing is said to be a thing of beauty for the reason that it is a source of joy forever, and in its absence too, it should fill our minds with heavenly memories of it. A really beautiful thing gives us such a happiness that will keep on increasing every day, and will remain to be doing so forever contrary to the ordinary things that give us happiness for some time and then disappears. What action of the musk rose makes it beautiful? The musk rose grows and blooms along with palm leaf. The humility of the great musk rose to grow with the dull leaf makes it beautiful. Moreover, it spreads its scent far away and makes a nature more beautiful and sweet. The musk rose's readiness to share its goodness with the rest of the world makes it rich. What is the grandeur of the dooms of the great people? How does the poet associate this grandeur with that of the beautiful things? The greatness of which the great people die is the grandeur of the dooms of the mighty dead. The poet compares this importance with that of the beautiful things on account of the fact that the great people die for giving happiness to the rest of the world. Who is the mighty dead? Why are they called so? How are they beautiful? The mighty dead are the great people who have given up their lives for the humanity by struggling and dying for others. They are also called so because they were generous and provided happiness for the others. They were mighty for the reason that it is more difficult to die for others than living for oneself. They are in the same way beautiful as they grieved for other people like the daffodils and trees. They provided happiness to others like the clear rills, and they burned for others like the sun. Which tales does the poet here refer to? Why are they lovely? The poet refers to the truly beautiful stories that we have either heard or read. These tales are beautiful since they can leave an unforgettable happiness in us, and each time we recall these stories, we feel our problems lifted, mind refreshed, and life moving happily in spite of all the disturbances. How are the lovely tales fountain of immortal drink? A fountain of immortal drink provides us immortality. Similarly, reading and attending to really beautiful tales fill our minds with joy beyond description. What does the line, "Therefore are we wreathing a flowery band to bind us to earth," suggest? As a result of all the beautiful things around us, every morning we are entwining a flowery wreath to bind us to the beauties of the earth in spite of all the sadness. In spite of all the sufferings, a beautiful thing helps us to do away with the cover of gloom or darkness from our lives. What is the subject matter of the poem A Thing of Beauty? A beautiful thing is a source of eternal joy. Its attractiveness grows with the passage of time, and its impact never fades away. It is as pleasant as a cool, quiet bower or sound sleep with sweet dreams, or robust health and mental peace. It provides the beholder with a harbor of calmness and comfort. It is the beauty of nature that keeps us attached to this earth. Every morning we collect fresh, lovely flowers and prepare garlands. The fascination for flowers is our bonding with the earth. It helps us steer clear of despondency and disappointments. We forget all our despair of acute shortage of noble souls, of misfortunes that overtake us to test our forbearance. Life is full of trials and tribulations, and we often find ourselves in the midst of gloom. It is at such depressing moments that a sight full of beauty dispels the pall of sadness from our spirits, making room for hope and optimism. How are the countless objects of beauty depicted? The poet says that the objects of beauty are countless. These include heavenly bodies like the sun and the moon, the old and the young trees that provide cool shelter to sleep, the daffodil flowers encased in green leaves, the streams that flow through a shady passage which they make themselves with plants, and the bushes that bear fragrant flowers. These simple and even commonplace things lift the human spirit, filling it with joy and delight. In addition to these objects of nature, there are wonderful tales of our legendary heroes who lived and died heroically, which inspire us with their matchless beauty. These beautiful things are metaphorically an endless source of nectar that pours down to us from heaven, bringing eternal joy for the soul's grandeur. They are like an elixir of life, a never-diminishing source of pleasure and delight, an endless fountain of joy that seems to be a precious gift from heaven. What is the message of the poem, A Thing of Beauty? John Keats was an enthusiastic lover of nature. In his poem, he refers to the powers of nature. He wishes mankind to realize these powers and make his life enjoyable and worth living. Through his poem, A Thing of Beauty, he tells us how a thing of beauty provides perennial joy to us. How do the daffodils and clear rills enhance our environment? Daffodils are charming white flowers that bloom in green ambiences. The clear rills or clear rivers of water create cooling comfort or passageway for themselves as they pass through the thick bushes and charge away from the heat of the sun. What is the grandeur of the Dooms, an endless fountain of immortal drink? The grandeur of the Dooms is a reference to our mighty and dead ancestors who have formed beautiful objects for us. On the other hand, the endless fountain is the endless joy provided to us by the abundances of nature in form of nectar pouring on us from heaven. How does Keats express a thing of beauty as a joy forever? According to the poet, John Keats, a thing of beauty is a cause of constant joy. Its beauty goes on increasing. It will, on no occasion, fade and pass into oblivion. A bower is a pacific and pleasant place in the shade of a tree. It arranges for shelter or protection from the hot rays of the sun. A beautiful thing also gives us sound sleep, full of pleasurable dreams, health, and peaceful breathing. Beauty, hence, does not lead to disinterest, but a constant battle to safeguard our nature or earth. How does Keats mention about the nature of humans in this poem? Every single morning, we, the humans, are weaving a flowery wreath to bind us to the beauties of the earth despite the sadness and feeling of melancholy. We all have sinful qualities of hatred and disappointment. We suffer from the lack of noble qualities and morbid evil ways. In spite of all this, a beautiful thing helps us to do away with the cover of gloom or darkness from our lives. It makes us love life regardless of the things that make us sad and dampen down our spirits. How is Mother Nature articulated in this poem? The sun, the moon, trees, old and young, is all cause of happiness for us. The trees sprout and spread their subdivisions to provide shelter within their green covering for the simple sheep. The daffodils blossom within the green environments in which they grow. The clear and the small streams of water make a freshening shelter for themselves against the hot season. The thick mass of branches look grand with their good-looking musk roses. In what context is death quoted by Keats in this poem? The first stanza ends on the note of death and the lofty structures of feeling or myth that we have invented to harmony the dead with the reverence it deserves or demands. Death is a sentimental presence which drowns their immortalities, the great weight of the past and its detachment. In Keats' poem, death serves as the unstoppable equivalent to the vigor and naturalness of impulse so inherent to his romantic sensuousness and vividness.